Welcome to Action Sports and Culture. I'm super excited to be joined today by Action Sports agent to the stars and the founder of sports marketing and management agency Stoked Management Group, Lowell Taub. Lowell, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Yeah, man. Good to see you, Ali. I'm good. Thank you.
And it's been a bit of a busy time with everything going on with qualifications at the moment for skateboarding. You were over at a Dew Tour, is that right?
Yeah, so Dew Tour is cool. It was kind of the first skateboarding event that the entire industry was able to descend upon in about 18 months.
Yeah.
So figure, kind of street league, Super Crown was sometime October, November of 19 before COVID. And
Mhm.
obviously none of us knew what that next year would bring. But first trip to Iowa in my whole life. Spent a fun weekend in Des Moines and Stoked had four clients there. Nyjah, who won it and, kind of solidified his qualification for the first ever men's street team. Sky Brown, who won silver, and, based on skating for Great Britain, has, locked in her qualification spot, being, best in her country and top 20 in the world.
Yeah.
Jordan Barrett, who in pretty Olympic fashion, needed to come there and beat out two other American girls for the third and final park spot and was able to step up and do it, which was, really cool. Jordan and I have been together for 4 years now. And one of those, things as a proud agent where you kind of watch her grow up in front of your eyes from the age of 17 to 21. And so we've been on this kind of 4-year vision quest to get to the Olympics, and it came down to Des Moines, and she was able to do it, which was awesome. And then on the other side of kind of a truly Olympic fashion, I represented Tom Shaw for 7 years now. So another kind of, Grom who I've been able to watch grow up before my eyes from the age of 14 to 21. Tom had a spot kind of locked down, and then Zion Wright, threw a banger of a run that not only won the Dew Tour, but won him the third and final, park spot for the Americans, and bumped Tom Shaw out. And as much as I'm sad and bummed for Tom, because I wanted to see my guy get there, Zion's a friend and a skater that I have a ton of respect for, and just to see him send it like that and go for it on the 31st of 32 runs in the event, where basically he had to win or bust for the Olympics, and he won it. So that was my Dew Tour experience, and a lot of cheese curds. I had a heck of a lot of cheese curds in the Midwest.
Nice one. Well, I'd love to take it back to the beginning, if that's okay with you, and find out a bit more about how you actually got into sports marketing and athlete management as a career. How did that all start?
Yeah, so when I finished college, I thought back then that I wanted to be a sportscaster. So I thought that I wanted to be, an ESPN Sports Center anchor type guy. I had my own public access television show in college called Sports World with Lowell Taub on Channel 13 in Ithaca, New York. So I got a job. I got an entry-level job with a 30-year-old guy named Steve Hers, who's still in the business today, running that same company. So he was 30. He had just started his own company, and he hired me, as his number two guy. And my thought process back then, I didn't necessarily want to be a sports broadcaster's agent. I was like, oh, I'm going to get this job. I'm going to meet everyone at ESPN. I'm going to tell them I want to be a sportscaster, and they're going to hand me a job. That was what my naive 22-year-old mind thought. So in pretty short order, I realized a couple things. To be a sportscaster, you kind of have to go to the middle of nowhere and work your way up, doing 3 years in Savannah, Georgia, followed by 3 years in, Du Bois, Iowa. And then you hope you work your way up the chain to bigger markets. So I just wasn't ready to leave the city and all the energy of the city and all my friends that were in the city. And secondly, I kind of realized I had an aptitude for, the art of agenting and representing other people and the art of the deal, and, just kind of talking, and representing a third party's interests came very naturally to me. And I enjoyed it. So I pivoted kind of, in an epiphany in the first 6 months of that job. I was like, oh, I wanted to be a sportscaster because I loved sports. I loved talking about sports. I wanted to be in that industry. And I realized, oh, this job that I kind of took, on a different path, well, this keeps me, connected to sports and, talking about sports. And so I did that job for about 18 months. And then I got an entry-level job from a guy named Mike Levine, who goes by Vino, who is now the co-head of CA Sports and one of the most successful and powerful guys in the sports marketing business. So he hired me in April of 98 as an entry-level athlete marketing, athlete endorsements guy. And then everything kind of I've achieved, in the 23 years since then has, been, my hustle and hard work. And obviously a lot of people have helped me along the way, including Vino, who then hired me again in 2007, to fold my agency into CA Sports. Yeah, so that was kind of my entry point. I wanted to be talent, and instead, I've been representing talent for 25 years now.
And in 2005, you started off your own agency. What kind of brought that on? Did you thought, okay, you were entrepreneurial and you kind of wanted to sort of take it a bit further from sort of what you've learned and then kind of do your own thing? Or
yeah, it was a very specific moment in time, Ollie. From 90, I got to a company called the Marquee Group in 1998. In 1999, it got acquired by what was known as SFX Sports. Mm-hmm. SFX Sports, back then was kind of one of the big three agencies. It was IMG, Octagon, and SFX Sports. So I was at SFX from 98 to 05, and SFX Sports had been acquired by Clear Channel, the big radio and billboard company. And long story short, in about 2005, they decided they didn't want to own SFX Sports anymore. What was SFX was going to become Live Nation, still the concert ticket promotion that we all get our concert tickets from today. So the company had a very big round of layoffs, and they actually didn't lay me off. I was one of the 5 people or whatever in my whole department that they didn't lay off. And so I was 31 years old. I had a good client roster. It was October of 2005. I had Bodie Miller was my big star, and he was about to go to the Olympics in 5 months later in February of 2006. And I approached management and said, hey, you didn't lay me off. I have an employment contract. Like, is there a world where this would be win-win, where if you give me, I know you don't want to be in the sports business anymore. Do you want to give me my clients and my files and my revenues, and we high five and hug it out, and I'll go do it on my own. And they went for it. A guy named Mike Principi, who is still a friend of mine, he now runs GSE in the sports agency business. He took good care of me in that negotiation, and kind of overnight, I launched GFHF, which my friends are making fun of me for a very long time about that acronym. But Bodie Miller at the time had an autobiography called Be Good, Go Fast, Have Fun. And I took the Go Fast and the Have Fun, GFHF. So kind of overnight in October of 2005, when I was 31 years old, I had my own agency with 11 clients. Kenny Mayne was a client from ESPN, and Kobe Jones, the soccer legend, was a client, and Julie Mancuso, another ski racer, was a client, and ended up even just, the power of kind of networking and relationships. I ended up renting office space from Steve Hers, my first boss, back in '96. It was just a moment in time that again, there was a huge round of layoffs. I didn't get laid off, and I went into management and negotiated an exit, and it all worked out.
And then you were acquired, weren't you, by CAA? So after
that. I don't know how I'm allowed to legally term it, but let's call it an acqui-hire. I folded my GFHF into CAA. The major asset that they acquired was me, and some revenues and whatever that negotiation looked like. But yes, CAA acquired the agency. It was only 18 months, in age. It's funny looking back on it. Mike Levine, Vino, when they tried to acquire me, I originally said no, because I liked running my own agency at 33, and I did think I had a path to some fun and some success. But Vino is very persuasive and kind of wouldn't take no for an answer. So yeah, they acquired it, and I started there in May of 2007.
Nice. And then were you sort of then looking after, like, did you bring all your clients with you and then sort of increase your
Yeah,
roster from there as
yeah,
well?
I did. I think I had 11 clients maybe, and let's call it a year or two into my tenure at CAA, three of those 11 stuck, and actually three of those 11 are still with me. So Bodie Miller, Julia Mancuso, the most decorated Olympic ski racer of all time, and Summer Sanders, who's both a four-time Olympic swimming medalist and then a 25-year television personality. Those are the three that have been with me from SFX to GFHF to CAA and now to Stoked. But yeah, they really brought me on more to help build out their entire sports endorsements and athlete marketing division. So we had a hockey division, kind of anchored with Sidney Crosby, and we had a baseball division anchored with Derek Jeter, and we had a basketball division that were anchored with Dwayne Wade and Carmelo Anthony, and we ended up having a soccer division that was anchored by Cristiano Ronaldo, and football division, that was anchored, over time by a number of great, football players, including, most recently Aaron Rodgers and J.J. Watt. So CA is a very collaborative culture. In the early years, I was trying to bring in marketing deals across that entire, all of those different sports verticals. I was able to hire some great people, Lloyd Fisher, who is still there running basketball, and Bob Philp, who ran the football market for a number of years. And we had, super strong hockey marketers and baseball marketers. And it's a very collaborative environment where, even though, if you're not in the basketball division, there's no reason you can't, and you have a great relationship with Red Bull, you can bring Red Bull deals to the basketball division, the football division. It's not kind of a territorial, why the heck are you selling my client? The whole philosophy at CA is everyone represents all of the clients. So if you walk into a meeting and I'm there to sell you Chloe Kim, and they're like, I don't care about action sports, but I want to sponsor a music tour. Great. You can pivot and try to, tell them about, sponsoring Lady Gaga or Katy Perry. So there's so many assets that you have to sell, that was the beauty of CA, that if you walked in almost any room, if they wanted to do something in pop culture, you could pivot and try to make a connection to a colleague and continue the conversation. What basically happened over time, Ollie, I signed Shaun White in 2010. And Shaun was such an amazing client, and such a client that I kind of went in depth on, that I moved further away from the basketball business and the football business and the hockey and the baseball business to really focusing on Shaun White. Shaun then opened the door to Nyjah Huston. Nyjah opened the door to Chloe Kim. Chloe opened the door to Sky Brown, and on down. So over time, I really got back to my roots of focusing on Olympics and action sports. But, over my tenure there was, did Cristiano Ronaldo's shampoo deal, and, Dwayne Wade's, mission foot care deal, and Aaron Rodgers' Izod deal. And that was just the beauty of CA. I could live in my little Shaun White, Chloe Kim, Nyjah Huston bubble, but continue to, deliver, wins for other clients across the roster.
Nice. And how would you say, sort of over the 23 years, it's changed, sort of athlete management, kind of from when you started to kind of present day, I guess?
Yeah, good question. I'd say a couple things. First, these equity deals, right? That kind of didn't, we kind of scoffed at equity deals 20 years ago. But now that these guys are making so much money, 50, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 million dollars, you don't have to, and then you still make your Gatorade money and your Red Bull money and your Nike money and your Adidas money. You can now have a kind of a raffle ticket. You can scratch an entrepreneurial itch and have that, so my, big win in that kind of space was Shaun White with GoPro cameras. So Sean had a multi-year Red Bull deal, and kind of at the finish line, the deal fell apart, and we were all very disappointed. But we met the CEO of GoPro Cameras, and Nick Woodman, and he told us, an amazing story about how big the company was about to kind of be overnight, and that Sean could help be an accelerant to that. And that was one of those, just kind of lightning in a bottle where the timing was perfect. Sean helped authenticate the coolness of the brand and get them better shelf space. When you walked into Best Buy, there was a big Shaun White display of GoPro up front, and the company went public, and we had a $30 million win by owning a piece of the company. And then there are a couple other of those sprinkled around. LeBron James owned a piece of GoPro cameras, and David Ortiz owned a piece of Vitamin Water, and Kobe, owned a piece of Body Armor. So that's one big thing that's changed. Athletes saying, rather than just being a hired gun and getting my big check from this brand, is there an opportunity to own a piece of something and have a big exit? Phil Mickelson's doing it with Mizzen and Main, currently in the golf space, these kind of performance button-down shirts where he's an owner in it. And he wore it at a practice round of the Masters, and he changed the company's fortunes overnight. In addition to that, obviously, social media, I would say, is the other biggest change in 20 years. Where now, if two athletes are apples to apples on, you're looking at 2 point guards, and they're both African American, and they're both, in the prime of their career, and they're both, marketable, and you're going to say, okay, great, who's got better social media? So we have to try to inspire our athletes to lean in, to excel, to being consistent and giving their audience great content. Because again, if it comes down, apples to apples, where all things are equal, social media could be the difference maker. And look, it's also a great tool for me, to follow my 22 clients and kind of know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and be able to drop into their lives and, tell them something was, cool, or congratulate them on something, or, just see where they are traveling in the world. And it keeps me more connected to my clients. Those are the two biggest things that jump to mind, Ali. Kind of now NFTs, we'll see how sustainable that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, equity deals and social media are the two that immediately jump to my head as the biggest kind of sea changes in the industry.
And when you would sort of be picking or scouting or kind of looking at new athletes and talent when they were younger, would social media now then play a massive role in that? So sort of obviously looking at their like marketing ability, and sort of looking at how they can be positioned, and as well as the talent.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the mix, and it definitely makes every agent's job a little bit easier. Right now, you don't have to get on a plane to watch a 15-year-old skateboarder play golf, or you don't have to get on a plane to get a sense for their charisma, and their brand, for lack of a better word. But it's still all part of the mix, right? It's their excellence at their sport. It's, is their sport high profile, or kind of medium profile or low profile? What is their, social media does give a window into kind of what their vibe is and the way that they carry themselves. So yeah, it is definitely changed the face of recruiting, and almost given every agent, taken away 2 or 3 plane rides, and a 6-month head start on getting to know, Sky Brown before even getting on the phone with her dad, Stu, to start recruiting, and to give you a sense of, who you think she is and what you think she's capable of.
Yeah. And so now, like, looking at those athletes, and I guess in particular, sort of looking at the Summer Olympics and skateboarding and surfing, what do you think that means to action sports as a whole?
Yeah, I do liken it to kind of the explosion of popularity that snowboard experienced, after it went into the Olympics in '98, and kind of crescendoed with, the Flying Tomato in 2006. He hates that name, so I'm just saying that in terms of the hype. So I actually do think it's a little bit separate on skateboarding and surfing. And I represent John Florence, who made it, and Courtney Kamau, who didn't. So I'm not at all, glass, half empty. I'm more glass half full on skateboarding and glass half empty on surfing. And I'll tell you why. Everyone's nervous about the waves in Japan, in July. And is that going to be the right introduction to the world about the beauty and the artistry and the athleticism of surf? Or is it going to be these 4-foot little breaks and nobody can get errors and nobody can kind of differentiate themselves and it's a mellow contest? So everyone's nervous about that. But I think the other thing is that if you don't live near an ocean, you can't have the follow through, of what you've seen in the Olympics to then go out and surf, right? If you're in Oklahoma or anywhere landlocked around the world, you might think it's great, and then you're going to go back to your basketball court or your soccer field or your golf course. And whereas skateboarding, of those three, of surf and snowboarding and skateboarding, is the most democratized. I just think that skateboarding, the fact that for $80, $100, you can buy a complete skateboard and do it almost anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And the fact that Nyjah Huston's a rock star and he's going to make it cool, and Sky Brown's a rock star and she's going to make it cool. Zion, I think, is going to do great at park. Jordan, I hope, busts there on that podium in the women's park as well. I just think that the unique individual styles of these athletes and the coolness and the accessibility and the affordability. Skateboarding already apparently during the pandemic had a huge uptick, last spring, summer, again, because it was socially distanced, it was affordable. So I do think that skate is going to come out of this in a very strong position for our industry and our sport of popularity, viewership, and therefore merchandise sales and, deck and wood and complete sales. So I'm bullish on skate. I'm bullish on surf as well. But again, I just think surf has always had 30 or 40 years of limitations of translating to TV to non-super fans of like, what is even going on? And there's, how does priority work? And there's, weather holds and you don't know, you can't like look at it and know exactly what's the difference. Whereas I think you can look at a Nyjah Huston street run, like, oh, he is clearly the best. And Utah is obviously right there with him. Or you can look at a Sky Brown run and be like, oh, she goes bigger, and can spin 360 and can spin 540. And it's just kind of immediately recognizable. And it's 40 seconds and it's scored and it's not head to head. So that was a long-winded answer of saying I'm bullish about them both, but I think skateboarding's really got an opportunity to bust into, global pop culture zeitgeist.
Yeah. And with sort of the opportunity of Sky and of Nyjah becoming household names, and as well as like quite a lot of the other athletes, what are the ways that then brands will then sort of look to become involved with that, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit, sports marketing 101, Ollie. Like for anyone who hasn't kind of studied it, the whole Olympic paradigm has kind of shifted in the last 30 years, whereas a generation ago, Mary Lou Retton popped up at the Olympics, she'd win a gold medal, and then she'd get her Wheaties box, right, and become famous. Or Carl Lewis would pop up and win all his golds and become famous. Now the brands are so astute and adept at exploiting the Olympic window, and I don't mean exploit as a negative there as much as just a fact of leveraging that window of 45 days, 30 days, 15 days running up to the Olympics and during the Olympics. That's when you see your Simone Bileses and your Katie Ledeckis and your Nyjah Huston. So Nyjah and Sky already have 5, 6, 7, 8 partners, each of them heading into the Olympics, who are going to exploit the moment at various levels. Coming out of the Olympics, knock on wood, if they can both, win some hardware, then it's my job to, I think that's when more even non-endemic brands are just going to come and say, oh, Nyjah is the GOAT of his sport, and he's inked up and he's multicultural and he's cool. He just is cool without trying. So I want to attach whatever it is, you know, my insurance company to him, and we'll have to sift through those to make sure they're authentic.
Yeah.
And Sky, again, like how often, like I think she's going to capture the world's attention because she's 13 years old, not even 13, but she will be 13 by the time she gets to the Olympics. And I think it's going to be a holy shit moment for people of like, this girl is the best in the world at something. 13 years old, she's at the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure the Olympic, you know, NBC and others are going to tell the story that in addition to professional skating, she's a professional surfboarder. She won Dancing with the Stars Junior Edition in 2018. She dropped a song, you know, last fall. She plays the guitar. So this is literally, you know, a Gen Z, you know, multi-hyphenate, you know, athlete, you know, singer, dancer, you know, actor. So I do think that hopefully they both have really, really strong opportunities. And then it's nice also that because of COVID and the push to 21, they're going to be back in more condensed window. It would usually be 4 years, but this time it'll be 3 years. So Nyjah will only be 29 and Sky will only be, you know, 16, which is crazy, you know, at your second Olympics. Right. But yeah, I'm very excited and bullish for what they're offering. And John Florence as well. I mean, John goes out there and wins gold and is the first ever surfing gold medalist. Again, that sport shows up gorgeously. You know, there have been tons of brands that have used surf imagery with generic actors, you know, in their marketing materials. And so I think that those three have really, really high ceiling opportunities, you know, coming out of the Olympics if they perform.
Nice. And you started Stoked Management last year. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so Stoked was launched on August 15th of 2020. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it's a little bit eerie, Ali, in the similarities to when I started GFHF in 2005. So COVID had come along and CAA did a round of layoffs, so directly analogous to SFX. And again, I wasn't laid off, which is fantastic. And but it was just kind of the epiphany moment I needed of, I approached management to say, look, I've had an amazing 13-year run here. I've loved every minute of it. I've made, you know, my skills have grown. My client roster has grown. I have friends here who I consider family. But, you know, this agency has a lot of very, very large business units to focus on moving forward. And I almost raised my hand to volunteer. Like, I have a great boutique business living inside the biggest sports agency in the world. You know, is there a world where we can amicably figure out putting me back to my entrepreneurial roots, like when I came in the front door in 2007, you know, as this Olympic and action sports and individual sport expert, you know, while taking you having to manage me and these clients and these revenues, you know, just kind of taking that off of your plate, you know, while where you, like every other company, is about to come out of a pandemic. And very much to management's credit, they did that with me. They gave me an amazing runway and path and opportunity to succeed. So after we negotiated for a couple weeks, you know, I was an employee of CA on August 14th, and Stoked Management Group was born on August 15th, and I was able to take 18 clients, you know, with me. Again, all amicably, all above board, all with CAA's blessing, and very similar to the story of my departure from SFX in 2005. Timing is everything. And the strength of relationships. Right? It's pretty. I try to be very humble, but patting myself on the back that two different giant agencies, you know, where exits from agents with clients can get extremely contentious and litigious. Mm-hmm. Both of them, there was no contentiousness. There was no lawsuits. It was negotiating straight with management, banging out a separation agreement, taking clients with you. And so I really do applaud them and appreciate them. I think that they a little bit were probably like, you know, hey, this guy has the guts, you know, to step away from his cushy job at the biggest agency in the world in the middle of a pandemic, God bless him. So yeah, here we are. So we're about 10 months old.
Nice. And is it split? So it's athlete endorsements and then sort of company consulting. Is that right? And it's kind of
Yes,
split out that
exactly. So
way.
we have 22 clients, and my traditional job for the last 20 years has been on, the sales side of the transaction. I take Chloe Kim and I sell her to Toyota, or I sell her to Monster. We now have a handful of brands that have said, well, you are a huge pain in the ass to deal with when you're, representing the clients. So why don't you come here and wear that hat and play that role for us? No, but hopefully as a testament to me and to Stoked, a couple of these brands. So the one that I usually use as my reference point is No Bull. So No Bull is a shoe and apparel brand that's kind of grown up in the last 5 years in the CrossFit space. And they said, look, we can hire CrossFit athletes in our sleep. We sponsor the number 1, 2, and 4 female CrossFit athlete in the world. But this brand is much bigger than just being a CrossFit brand. We're going to need a soccer player when we put out a cleat, a golfer when we put out a golf shoe, a tennis player when we put out a tennis shoe, and just generally, to grow this with additional athletes that fit our brand ethos of no excuses, and with training at the heart of what they do in their profession. So they've hired me to
That's right.
phone. They've hired me to help them acquire talent, beyond the CrossFit space. So Stoked is their agency of record, on retainer, we're out in multiple conversations and multiple negotiations to round out their athlete roster. We helped Hugo Boss sign Draymond Green to be the face of Hugo Boss NBA capsule collection, where again, I had a relationship with Hugo Boss, and he said, we have to figure out threading the needle of who could do a Hugo Boss NBA hoodie collection while they might also already have a Nike or an Adidas, or a Puma deal. And my buddy's like, I don't have time to talk to every agent out there and figure out who can even do the deal. And then I need advice on how to negotiate it, how much I should be paying this person, what assets I should get in the scope of services. So yes, Stoke has, complementing our agent and sales side, we also are available to help brands of any size with their, athlete procurement strategy.
Yeah. And how do you see sort of like, I guess the content projects, like is that a big focus going forwards? Is that sort of something that you guys are working on?
Yeah, huge area of opportunity. And I think where that comes from is it doesn't take, being super smart to realize that the day of the 30-second Shaquille O'Neal Papa John's commercial are going to end soon. Nobody knows exactly when, but as we go away from, traditional cable to streaming services, just 30-second television commercial is going to end. So, that's again why social media is so important for these athletes, that they can be curating their own content, and I can be selling that content directly to a brand to say, rather than, you having to buy a 30-second TV commercial on XYZ network and then cast this talent, younger consumers are consuming content via social media. I think that like one of the big breakthrough moments was Uncle Drew, right? Pepsi put Kyrie Irving in his makeup and sent him to a basketball court, and he's crossing people over, and they made an incredible 3-minute piece of content. Now that was led by Pepsi, and then became a movie franchise, right? Like that's like a holy shit moment of somebody at some point at Pepsi sat around the table and said, "Yeah, this would be cool. Let's dress him up in old man, makeup and let him surprise people." And now all of us agents realize if you have a client with a personality who making content comes organically to them, they'd be doing it anyway. Yeah. Well, what content can we make? Whether you're John Florence, who's made 5 beautiful films over the last 10 years, or Chloe Kim, who launched a YouTube channel, or Nyjah Huston, where we're out right now selling his, his documentary project. It's being shot. It's been shot by Ty Evans for the past 2 years. There is an audience, in the brand world for content that we make directly, and then they can turn into branded content. Mm-hmm. So that is something that we is high on our priorities to continue to evolve what should become, a Stoked content studio for our clients. Again, as the day and age of a 30-second, national television spot continue to dwindle in favor of digital short form content.
Yeah. And with that in mind, I mean, what else, or is there something that you're sort of most looking forward to as an agency and personally as well with growing it out?
Gosh, really great question. I'd like to sign some golfers. I am a golf fan, both PGA and the sport. I represented Patrick Reed for 2 years at CAA, including when he won the green jacket at Augusta. So that was a career highlight. To represent the Masters champion. So it was just very serendipitous that in my 2 years with Patrick, it included a major win, and that's primarily, in addition to their on-course earnings, the whole sport is driven by endorsements. So you don't get an $80 million contract with the New York Knicks, or the New York Yankees. You get, your Callaway deal and your Nike deal and all of your endorsement partnerships and financial services. So I'm bullish on signing some golfers. I think we also, would like to figure out the esports space. We hear over and over that esports representation is the wild, wild west, and a lot of people's brothers and uncles and best friends and family lawyers are doing it. And eventually, real professional agents are going to come into that more and more and try to professionalize the representation side of that. So that's firmly on our radar. Women's and men's soccer, I think, is an area of growth. Okay. Who's the next Alex Morgan? Who's the next Christian Pulisic? Stoked to put ourselves in a position to be identifying those athletes as they're 14, 15, 16, which dovetails into the whole NIL, the name, image, likeness conversation. I think that's going to be a real sea change moment for all. If the next Katie Ledecky can win Olympic medals, in London in 2012 and then go to Stanford and still get $1 million deal from Speedo, well, that has completely changed the paradigm for the athletes of waiting till Colin Morikawa or Matthew Wolff, the college golfers, or Katie Ledecky, or Sydney McLaughlin, a hurdler. They don't have to turn pro anymore. Like, if we're going to be able to make them money as freshmen in college because they carry in the momentum and the hype of the Olympics or being their best high school athlete, I think that's what's exciting to me. Some golf, some soccer, some esports, and really being an industry leader and figuring out how to advise and mentor these college kids in the new NIL era.
Nice. Cool. And what's the best way for people to get in contact or to follow what you're up to?
Stoked MG on Insta. So STOKEDMG. Our website is stokedmg.com, so people can kind of follow us as we add to the client roster on both the client side and the brand side. Stoked is on LinkedIn, but primarily we are trying to share consistent content with our audience of all of the comings and goings and wins and exciting and brand partnerships of our clients through the Stoked MG on Insta would be the best way to follow us.
Nice one. Well, Lowell, thanks so much for your time. It's been amazing talking to you and hearing all your stories and your career. And yeah, it's going to be exciting times looking to see what Stoked are up to.
Thanks, Ollie. I really appreciate you guys having me, and I hope everyone enjoys our convo.